riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides and the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now that week has passed. It's Why I Hate This Album podcast with Tim and Garrett.
Hello and welcome back to a very special episode of Why I Hate This Album. I am one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. With me, as always, co-host extraordinaire, Steven Seagal, to my Steven Seagal, Timothy Richardson. Tim, how the hell are you?
I'm bad. Very, very bad, Garrett.
Why are you so bad?
Because we've spent the past 2 weeks now listening to what I'm going to charitably dub the worst album we've done on this show.
No.
Yes. It is.
No.
Yes.
No. You're crazy. You have a very short memory.
Nope. I went back and listened to every album we have done on this show because, again, we had the time for it. This is the worst. This is as bad as Lulu. This is as bad as Corey Feldman.
I just don't know if I agree. Now, will I say that this is what we've been training for? Yes. It's all led to this, people. This might break us. This might make us. Do I know what that means? No, I do not. But Tim, that's not why we're here. We're here to ask a very specific question, and we've had an entire 2 weeks due to some unforeseen circumstances. Did somebody get a new job? Is his name Tim? I don't know. That's what he told me, but I haven't seen him go to work yet.
I didn't say that. Did I say that?
You might have said that.
Oh, yeah, that's not what happened. Probably best to move on.
Yeah, caught in a lie. Anyway, Tim, after an entire incredibly grueling 2 weeks with Mr. Steven Seagal and his songs from the Crystal Cave, I guess you've kind of ruined it, but I'm curious. Tim, do you hate this album?
Yes, Garrett. We have dealt with a lot of cunts on this show, one of whom legally adopted an underage girl because that somehow made it more legal to fuck her. We have discussed some of the worst music imaginable. This guy might be the worst person we have ever discussed, and this is at least the worst album we will discuss this year. I would argue since the beginning of 2018. Fuck this album. Fuck this guy. Fuck you a little. I really hate this. What about you, friend? Keeping in mind that if you don't hate this, I will savagely beat you.
Ooh.
What a good boy I am.
What a bad boy you are. Threatening to beat me. Tim, I will not be tamed. Threats of violence aside.
Savage beating.
Okay, let me walk away from the no table and wander over to the probably. Okay, at the end of 1 week, I definitely didn't hate this.
Oh, I don't know what that even possibly means.
It means that a week ago, when I was ready to talk about this album, I didn't hate it.
I know what the words mean. I just don't know how that's possible.
Okay, all right. Well, sounds like we're going to come at this from slightly different angles. Well, we're going to get into the details. I don't have to defend myself right now.
I will burn another studio to the ground.
I feel like that's inevitable at this point.
I will do it months sooner than it will happen naturally. How about that?
I thought you were going to say, I'll do it much more purposely. Either one. Both very funny threats. Listen, I'm not going to be bullied, Tim. Not on my own show. No, I don't hate this. Yet.
Okay. No.
Your threats are having the opposite effect on me.
We will all remember this moment when you heard this album and said you did not hate it.
Boy, now I feel like this might be
we've already clipped it. This is going down in the history of this show as your worst take.
Oh, it might be. It might be. God, to realize it that soon after saying it, mere moments. Anyway, we must move on, Tim, as we're going to learn, folks, this is a lengthy album, and there is a lot to say about it and the man who made it. But before we do, I'm curious, Tim, prior to this week, I know the answer, but elucidate the listeners. What is your history with Mr. Steven Seagal?
I've seen some of his movies. I think he's terrible. I think that, honestly, most people that like his movies, even the good ones, are idiots. And I mean that in the most generous way possible. Say, for example, if a person had been raised on one of these movies by some sort of popcorn and ice cream eating, underpants wearing weirdo, it still doesn't justify anything. My point is, this guy sucks, his movies suck, his hairline sucks, he runs funny, and I hate him. I hate him so much. I mean, the only reason you're asking this one is because you would like to give your long history of how you don't hate him. Then I will give you his history, and that's going to be an incredibly bad take as well. So, Garrett, what is your history with this monster?
Listen, I am going to be able to thread this needle perfectly.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. Alleged
I'm a big fan of his early movies. Under Siege and before.
Right, idiot.
No, Casey Ryback, he saved the ship, Tim.
Oh, yeah, well, he was just a cook. It's still terrible.
No, it's great.
It's real bad.
It's got Gary Busey.
I already hate this episode.
It's got your buddy Two-Face from the Batman movies, Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah, I love Tommy Lee Jones.
Yeah.
He's been in...
Love Gary Busey.
Okay.
Love Steven Seagal. Love Under Siege.
Okay,
Glad
you
we
heard
got
this.
there.
Garrett does not hate this album and loves Steven Seagal.
Now,
clip both of those.
God. Okay.
Gino, make sure we don't lose it.
I'm more confident every moment. Okay, let's get serious for a minute. Yes, I was raised on the early films of Steven Seagal. I fucking love them. I love Out for Justice, Hard to Kill, Under Siege. Under Siege 2 can eat my dick.
Right, but in every technical sense, it is just as good a movie. Under Siege is a bad movie.
Fuck you, Tim. Now, Steven Seagal, the man. I hate this guy. This is a bad man. I really can unequivocally say I hate this man. He's a bad man who runs really weird and may or may not have any actual hair on his body. Which, I'm not going to hold it against him, but it looks silly.
Well, he's crafted hair using shoe polish.
Yeah.
That's why he moved to Russia, so that it was never warm enough for it to melt Rudy Giuliani style down his face.
God damn. America's mayor. Let's see. That's your history. That's my history. I feel like you're playing up. I am worried that your recent indoctrination into the music of Steven Seagal has painted your opinion of early Steven Seagal films. I feel like you and I could enjoy an Under Siege together.
I don't even think so. Yeah, no, fuck this guy. I'm out.
Okay. That's just a weird bad take by Tim. Okay.
Absolutely not.
I mean, okay, let me be serious for a moment. Yes, you are 100% in the right to say fuck this guy. He is, as I'm sure we're about to learn, unequivocally the worst human being on the planet. In so many definable ways, it's almost absurd. However, I really like those early movies. And this album is so butt fucking nuts eventually that it's hard not to enjoy it.
I disagree.
That's why okay. Well, that's why we do this show. That's your history. That's my history. Before we can get into the album, and God, I'm dying to, we need to understand a little bit about the man who made it. So Tim, take us on a journey. Unfortunately, I have an idea of just how long it's going to take to understand. How did Songs of the Crystal Cave come to be? And please list the many, many crimes of Steven Seagal.
Well, Garrett, my original plan, of course, was to do this entire history straight, to just pretend like the almost infinite lies of this pathological liar and alleged sexual abusing sociopath were true, and just discuss his history of being a Navy SEAL and his intentional strategic pooping to get out of trouble at times. Like he was some sort of octopus man, but I just couldn't do it. I threw away all my history, and this is the worst person in the world. Because I could not even stomach pretending that this guy's nonsense was true as a goof. Now, listener, this will not be comprehensive. Please do not write in to tell us all the things we missed. We likely missed them on purpose to save time. If you want to hear more gross and insane details about this man, there's a 3-part dollop about him that I listened to probably a year ago. There's something recommended by Ben De La Cour, recording artist extraordinaire, a 2-part Behind the Bastards episode that I'm sure has more information than this. Yes, probably. Anyway, Garrett, this fucking phony was born Stephen Frederick Seagal in Lansing, Michigan in 1952, son of a medical technician and mathematics teacher. Now, he is of Irish and Jewish descent, although he has variably claimed Italian, Russian, Native American, Japanese, and some Turkish and Mongolian tribe heritage, amongst others, although his mother clarified in an interview he was simply lying to seem cool. She also told magazines that he does not speak 4 languages, as he is fond of saying, and as far as she knows, he only speaks the one.
Do you get the impression that Steven Seagal's mother hates him?
Yes, I do. And I like that you call him Steven Seagal, because that is his exact name. Even his name is a lie. He changed it to Steven Seagal. I forget exactly what it was, because I think
somebody mispronounced it.
And he thought it sounded cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was like, oh yeah, I'll stick with that.
Yeah. He will also tell you he grew up on the tough streets of Brooklyn, but in reality, he grew up again in Lansing, Michigan until about the age of 5 and then moved to Fullerton, California, where he grew up. His mom made sure everyone knew he was a tiny child with severe asthma and could not fight. Puny was the word that she used. When he was a teen, he met with what the internet describes as a friendly old Japanese man at a Garden Grove dojo who encouraged him to visit Japan. And it seems like mostly that friendly old Japanese man just did not want to spend any more time with him at all.
A running gag.
Right. He did visit Japan sometime between 1971 and 1973. He would claim that he was trained by the inventor of Aikido, Jonathan Aikido, but he was definitely in college in California until 1971, and the founder of Aikido, Jonathan Aikido, died in 1969. So that's like
That can't be his name.
That's like the 17th lie so far. After returning...
And we're just getting warmed up.
Right. After returning to LA, he met Miyako Fujitani, who he would marry in 1975. Now, she was a second-degree black belt in Aikido, and she was in the U.S. doing some sort of Aikido training, which, as far as I can tell, and as far as YouTube can tell, not a real fighting style, or at least not an effective one.
Not one for, like, defending yourself.
Right. There are not a ton of MMA champions doing Aikido, and if you need proof of that, fire up the old YouTubes and type in MMA versus Aikido. It's really, really funny. It's not even close to a martial art. It's the equivalent of the British Army lining up to take turns shooting in the Revolutionary War of martial arts, and it does not work.
Now, if the other person agrees to only use Aikido, then it's almost fair.
Not even that. If the other person agrees to jump across the room and pretend to be thrown, then it's an effective martial art.
Fair.
In 1975, again, he married Miyako, and then he went back to Japan with her and had a couple of kids. In the early 80s, he was working as an Aikido instructor at his wife's family's dojo in Japan, while claiming that he owned the place and was the first non-Japanese martial arts instructor in Japan. He was not. Nonsense.
He did not. He was not. He did not. And has not.
Right. He went back and forth between the U.S. and Japan, opened a dojo in Taos, New Mexico, and one in North Hollywood with some of his students. All the while, he's having serious money problems and making up crazy lies. Some of these lies include fighting the Yakuza with the Irish mob. He once lied and said that a dog warned him about a fire and saved his life. He said that he worked for the CIA and trained CIA agents while in Japan. He would also later ingratiate himself with actual CIA folks and Special Forces military fellas, but this was mostly to steal their war stories and then claim that they were his own, also claiming to have been a Navy SEAL and a CIA operative and et cetera, et cetera. There are at least 2 separate accounts of him telling a crazy war story or a mission he did in Asia for the CIA, only for the person that actually happened to, the one that told him about that story, happened to be in the group of people that Steve was telling the story to, only to say, hey, fuck you, you fucking liar, you monster, you piece of human garbage.
That's my story.
Right.
Yeah, I went to a high school with a guy like that. Difference, he was 16 years old, but he was renowned for it. He was Mason. He'd be halfway through and be like, dude, that was me.
What is incredibly funny, though, is if you're in a group of people and somebody tells a story, then somebody else tells a story, then it's your turn to tell a story, and you tell the first guy's story back.
That's a power move. I do think at some point, and forgive me if I'm stepping on your toes at all, I think at some point, to avoid this little mishap, he pulls one of these guys aside and he's like, hey, I want to buy your stories. And they're just like, what? He's like, yeah, I'm going to buy your life a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to tell that story. It's going to be mine. Here's some money.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
He's buying stories.
He's like a comedian, like a late night comedian that has writers for him. So Steve moves back to the US to do stunt work and train actors for fight scenes, mostly because he's convinced Hollywood that what he's doing is real. And the way he convinced them is that he hired people, allegedly, to pretend that his fighting style was real. What Aikido guys do. So one of the fight scenes that he was choreographing was for some James Bond films, Never Say Never Again. And during that one, he broke Sean Connery's wrist during production because he's a horrible teacher, and also a view to a kill. Now, he got married for a second time in 1984 to actress Adrienne LaRussa. And if you're paying attention, you'll recall I did not mention his divorce, and that's because he didn't. He didn't bother with that.
Hey, I think I'm just gonna go.
Right. He took some money from their family to go promote their stuff in the US and then just got married to somebody else.
It's amazing. He just leaves an entire family in Japan. Yeah, I'm just going to take off. What?
Right. He's an international version of the Alabama trucker situation.
Oh, yeah. Families all over the world, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. So Adrian got the marriage annulled the same year. Miyaku would divorce him 2 years later, partially for that, probably partially for starting an affair with Kelly LeBrock. Yeah, I think that was before the unfortunate Kelly LeBrock thing happened.
Yeah, I think when he started cheating on his second wife with the third wife, soon to be third wife, the first wife was like, hey, that's just a step too far.
So Seagal somehow convinces Kelly LeBrock to marry him in 87, just around the time his own movie career was beginning to take off, despite being one of the worst actors and all-around worst people on the planet. Also, as mentioned, one of the worst runners. If you watch him run, Google Steven Seagal running. Stop the podcast.
It's great.
Do that. It's worth it. Now,
yeah, it is worth it.
As far as I can tell, he didn't have any overlapping marriages during the 9 years he was married to Miss LeBrock Seagal, but I will say this, allegedly, definitely cheated on her a bunch. And again, allegedly, not necessarily with willing participants. Allegedly. In 1987, he starred in the film Nico, Above the Law, aka Above the Law, aka Nico, the namesake of Shannon Hoon's daughter for some reason. I do not know why he was such a big Steven Seagal fan. And that was pretty successful, pretty well liked, as far as being probably, I believe, the first American film to feature fake martial arts Aikido in fight scenes. He followed that up with Hard to Kill, Marked for Death, and Out for Justice over the next few years.
All great movies.
Terrible trash. Absolute trash.
Every one of them are awesome.
Absolute trash. During this time, he allegedly became a reserve deputy in the Jefferson Parish, Louisiana Sheriff's Office, where he allegedly taught them martial arts. This was, of course, ceremonial and exactly as real as Herschel Walker's fake badge, but he does believe it to be just as real as Herschel Walker.
I was going to say, that's the adorable and tragic thing, is like, we all thought we knew what the word honorary meant.
Yeah.
And turns out the most important person in the room didn't.
Right. In 91, he got that coveted hosting gig on SNL despite him being humorless and monstrous. The cast hated him, Lorne Michaels hated him, and he's widely considered to have been the worst host in the history of the show. They actually considered replacing him midweek with anybody or just doing a show without a host for the first time ever. But the stories from this are also just amazing. They were concerned that Lorne Michaels was doing some sort of candid camera bit on them. Julia Sweeney said he had this idea that he's a therapist and he wanted Victoria Jackson to be his patient who had just been raped. And the therapist says, you're going to have to come to me twice a week for 3 years because, as he said, that's how therapists fucking are. They're just trying to get your money. And then there's a psychiatrist tries to have sex with her. Kind of like The Rock, he refuses to make fun of himself. He refuses to get hit in movies. It just kind of takes himself way too seriously.
Boy, that sketch had a real left-hand turn at the end.
Yeah, well, they
say the ending is the hardest part.
Yeah, right. So beginning around this time, his prolific career in alleged sexual harassment and sexual assault begins. He was accused by 3 WB employees of sexual harassment, for which he settled out of court. Then 4 more actresses came forward to accuse him of some late-night casting session sexual advances. And then, Garrett, in 1991, Gene LaBelle, stunt coordinator for Out for Justice, Steve told him that his Aikido training made him immune to being choked out, mostly due to his, thick neck or chi or whatever. So he said he wanted LaBelle to try. And at this point, Steve was clearly believing his own bullshit, so LaBelle put his arm around Steve's neck, and Steve said go. Realizing in that exact moment that Aikido was not real, Steve desperately tried to punch LaBelle in the balls, but, LaBelle is an actual martial artist, so he easily choked him out, and Steve shit his pants.
Yeah, he did.
A lot of shit.
Gene LaBelle is not a man to have fucked with. That guy was terrifying. Mean Gene LaBelle, he was a stunt coordinator on a lot of everybody's favorite action movies, and just, apparently, by all accounts, nicest guy in the world. But if you do the sorts of things that Steven Seagal was renowned for, and Tim, forgive me if you mentioned this already, not only would he pull shit like you just described, but he had a horrible reputation in the stunt community for actually hitting people and taking shit too far. Yeah. And then just being like, what? I just want to get a good shot.
Yeah, absolutely. Michael Jai White, in particular, said Steve was known for that. When Steve was asked about this LaBelle incident, though, he directly denied the allegations. He called LaBelle a sick, pathological scumbag liar. And when asked about this, LaBelle, on the other hand, said, Seagal is a good martial artist and a great actor, which is an interesting thing to say because he's a terrible, terrible actor. So I believe that means he is an even worse martial artist than he is actor.
Yeah, very funny, Gene LaBelle.
Absolutely. In 92, he starred in probably his most famous film, Under Siege. It's still terrible. If you like a Steven Seagal movie, though, this is probably the one you like, but you should not like this movie because this guy fucking sucks. And
that movie's great.
It's not. It's not.
It's really good. It should be watched. If you haven't seen it, go watch it when you finish up the podcast. You're welcome. Feel free to write in, hatePodMail@gmail.com. Let us know how right I was and how wrong Tim was. It's always fun. Oh, Tim,
keep in mind, hold on. Keep in mind that the person you're watching while filming this movie is actively sexually harassing women on this set.
Listen, if you do that, you're not going to enjoy the movie.
Right? You shouldn't enjoy it, is my point. Okay, Garrett.
This is late breaking. Gino's handing me something. What Gino, what is this? This better not say Steven Seagal has hepatitis C.
Oh, God. You know what? No. I hope it does. I hope he gets hepatitis C and then also gets run over by a steamroller feet first.
Oh, God.
Like a tube of toothpaste. And I hope Gene LaBelle is driving that steamroller.
Anyway, what I appear to have here, Tim, is not Steven Seagal fun facts, but instead Steven Seagal hot takes. These are actual quotes by the man himself, Mr. Steven Seagal, that have been collected so we can better understand the character of the man. So I'm going to interrupt occasionally now that I've got these. About time, Gino. We're supposed to have these. We started 20 minutes ago. In no particular order, Steven Seagal hot take 22475. I'm hoping that I can be known as a great writer and actor someday, rather than just a sex symbol. What?
Well, he's a sex symbol, you're saying.
Like he's saying, I'm definitely not. You and I can agree on at least one thing. Not a sexy man.
No, he sure isn't. Now, he is a sexual man.
Oh, the sexualist.
Jesus Christ. He will, I don't want to say force his sexuality on you. He will thrust his sexuality upon you without asking first.
He'll swaddle you in his sexuality.
You can't sue someone from Russia, right?
I don't think so.
No.
Now you can polonium the shit out of it.
Oh, yeah. But I've been building up my tolerance to that for quite some time now. I'm so sick.
And as a byproduct, so have I.
Anyway.
So much leukemia.
Yeah. In 1994, he became a director with On Deadly Ground, in which he gave himself a 10-plus minute speech on environmentalism that the studio severely edited down, but was still hated by everyone who has ever seen it.
Even me.
Yeah. Seagal considers it one of the most important and relevant moments in his career. In 1995, he did Under Siege 2. Jenny McCarthy claimed Steven Seagal tried to get her to undress for him in audition for that movie. Cheryl Schumann filed a case for sexual harassment, threatening, and beating her during On Deadly Ground that same year. In 1996, he was in Executive Decision. During the filming of that, Steve came in and said to all the actors in the crew, I'm in command. What I say is law. Which is objectively a funny thing to say, especially if you are and look like Steven Seagal. So John Leguizamo laughed and Steven responded by tackling him into a wall.
Anybody else, I'd be angry. But you know what? In that one instance, I'd be like, nah, I'm going to let this play out.
Yeah. Also, he made somebody tie his shoes on set for a few movies and then also refused to learn that person's name. It is unclear if that's because he was already too fat to tie his own shoes or if it was just a power move. Unclear.
I think it's a fat guy move posing as a power move.
Fair enough. Now, my favorite story possibly about him, and this is almost certainly not true. And the reason I say that is because I've heard this with him telling this to numerous different people. Some say it was on the set of SNL. It definitely wasn't that. Some say this was on a phone call with a man named Erwin Staff. And some stories that I read said that this was in a trailer where a producer walked in. I'm not sure. But my favorite probably false story about him is that his manager was once on the phone with Steve, and Steve sounded like he was tearing up. So the manager asked him if he was crying. That's weird. Why aren't you crying, man? To which Steve responded, yes, I'm crying. I just read the script. It's amazing. It's brought me to tears. It's unbelievable. And then the manager asked who wrote the script, to which Steve said, I wrote it. Now, and the other reason that that's probably not true is because the obvious question there would be, what's it about? What is the script? Not who wrote it. But this does definitely fit with him. And so we're just going to say it's true. Fuck this guy. He's a cunt.
I'll bet you some version of it's true.
Oh, yeah.
Wow, who's it by? Me.
Yeah, probably.
You cunt.
Yeah. In 1997, he was in Fire Down Below as an EPA officer fighting against industrialists dumping toxic waste. He then did the direct-to-video film The Patriot, and then the already late in his career, commercially successful Exit Wounds. That's pretty much the end of his in-theater career. There's a few more, but after this, it pretty much just goes straight to video. The one major exception is his role in Bobby Rodriguez's Machete, but again, yeah, most of the movies, despite being released straight to video in the US, they're still being released theatrically in other countries because, and this is true, other countries even worse taste in movies than Americans.
Your subtle antagonism of Robert Rodriguez is getting out of hand. He has told you to stop calling him Bobby Rodriguez so many times, and it was funny at the barbecue, but like, dude, this is 2 years in.
He's not getting his hat back either.
I mean, honestly, if I were you, I wouldn't give it back either. It looks better on you anyway.
Yeah.
But Jesus Christ, man. In case anybody's not paying attention, Tim is literally making fun of people casually, written into his history of another person he's making fun of. Well done. And also just like, who has the time?
Well, you did not actually get a job. Anyway, in the early 2000s, he ended a partnership with a producer he had worked with since Marked for Death, Julius Nasso. So Nasso sued him for $60 million and got a bunch of his friends in the Gambino crime family to intimidate Steve. Gambino crime family captain Anthony Ciccione told Steve that he had a choice of making 4 promised movies with Nasso or paying Nasso a penalty of $150,000 per movie, and that if Steve refused, he would kill him. Unfortunately, he did not immediately refuse, or we could have been done with this right here. Also, unfortunately, a lot of these guys were convicted of RICO charges, racketeering, extortion, other 63 other counts.
More or less doing exactly what they had just done to Steven Seagal, but to people much less deserving of it.
Right. Seagal did testify for the prosecution. Nasso pleaded guilty to charges of extortion, conspiracy in 2003. And then Steve repeatedly lied about all of this to make it seem like he was some sort of tough guy throughout the whole thing. He was not. There's tons of stories about like him being intimidated by these guys and then just picking him up and driving him to restaurants in Brooklyn, and him almost certainly weeping, maybe shitting himself to get out of it. And then he definitely ratted them out. Like this Gambino crime family, if you are listening.
And I'm sure you are.
He ratted you out. Come on.
Yeah.
Do the thing that you do. It's fine. In 2005, his lifelong dream of making a beverage was realized when Seagal Enterprises made the energy drink Steven Seagal's Lightning Bolt, and then also the aftershave Scent of Action, which is exactly as palatable as the beverage.
Made from the exact same ingredients.
Right.
Confusingly.
Yeah. His lifelong dream of pretending to be a blues musician was also realized when he pretended to play a bunch of instruments and then really did sing on the album of the week, Songs from the Crystal Cave. Several of the songs from that album, the album of the week, made it onto the soundtrack of Into the Sun, the third worst Steven Seagal movie. He then made another album, Mojo Priest, in 2006, toured the US and Europe with his band. Garrett, do you know what his band is called?
No.
Thunderbox.
Is it Steven Seagal and Thunderbox, or is it just Thunderbox?
No. It's Steven Seagal and Thunderbox.
I don't know. Really great time tonight. Let's get a big round of applause for Thunderbox. We have to go to this.
Right. Yeah.
I don't care if I have to go to Russia.
No, you do. You really.
Yeah, no, I'm not
really
going.
Do.
I'm so scared. We all know how it ends.
Yeah.
All right, just get on this here airplane to go home. No, you built think. No, I'm supposed to go home today. No, you built think.
Yeah.
No, you're now the backup guitarist for Thunderbox. Can I build tank?
Yeah, fair enough. In 2009,
I need somebody to tie my shoes.
I will say this, Garrett. I believe you would be a good shoe boy.
Oh, fuck you.
Sorry. Lace boy.
Lace boy.
It sounds better. It's the same job.
It's very demeaning.
In 2009, he married Mongolian Erdenetuva Batsuk, who goes by Ellie, much easier to pronounce. Okay. And then in a presumably unrelated matter, A&E, the Arts and Entertainment Network, began airing the show Steven Seagal Lawman, with fake police work he wasn't really doing in Louisiana and allegedly had been doing for the past, 18 years. He said, "I've decided to work with A&E me on this series because I believe it's important to show the nation all the positive work being accomplished here in Louisiana, to see the passion and commitment that comes from the Jefferson Parish Sheriff Office in this post-Katrina environment. The series premiere drew 3.6 million viewers. It was the best season opener for every original A&E series ever. That was briefly suspended after a sexual trafficking and sexual harassment lawsuit against Steve, but they resumed filming after that was dropped. So, all good there.
Got another Steven Seagal hot take. Ooh, this one's related, Tim. Quote, I've been a police officer for over 20 years, and I've investigated murders and all kinds of different crimes. End quote.
Yeah, well, I don't... If it's not clear, all of these quotes are lies.
Yeah, I mean, he said them.
Oh, sure. Yeah, Garrett's not making them up. Steven Seagal is making them up.
For once.
Right. In 2011, they moved the show to Maricopa County to be slightly more awful, with that Joe Arpaio fellow that runs a concentration camp down there. In 2011, he was sworn in as a apparently real deputy sheriff because, again, people keep buying his bullshit in Hudspeth County, Texas to patrol the Texas-Mexico border because, again, those fucking morons think he's a real person, and, you know, that's a mistake. In 2011, Jesus Sanchez Lovera filed suit against Steve and Maricopa County for a raid because Steve drove a tank into his house in an investigation for cockfighting and ran over an 11-month-old puppy in front of his children. So add puppy murderist to the list of crimes of Steven Seagal. This is a person. Garrett thinks, I don't remember the exact words, but I don't hate him. I think he's cool. I forget what it was. Gino clipped it, so we'll play that here. Yeah.
No. I doubt he clipped it. I doubt we played it.
Anyway, point is,
puppy. You did.
He killed a puppy.
Kind of buried. He buried the lead. Puppy killer. I might hate this album.
Yeah, you should. You should hate it based on the music, but, you know, cherry on top. In 2013, he became a rep for a Russian firearms company and lobbied the U.S. government on their behalf to ease restrictions on Russian firearms importation. This is a guy, by the way, we're going to get to it. He's got a song called Not For Sale on this album. Don't want to get ahead of myself.
Yeah, we don't want to. We don't want to start listing off the hypocrisies in this album. Let's stick to the lies first.
In 2016, he was granted Serbian and Russian citizenship, according to government spokesman Dmitry Peskov. He was asking quite insistently and over a lengthy period to be granted citizenship, presumably because he needs somewhere with a non-extradition treaty for the alleged rapes. Putin was
humblings.
No, this is
we
beyond
can't let
that.
him off the hook.
Yeah, Putin definitely fast-tracked that citizenship, but he's since kind of distanced himself a bit from Seagal, although if you check your Instagram, plenty of pictures with him.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things like when Trump invited Kanye to the White House and was just like, oh shit, what have I done?
Yeah. Dmitry is reported to have said, I wouldn't necessarily say Putin is a huge fan, but he's definitely seen some of his movies. On the other hand, Steve called Vlad one of the greatest living world leaders and was then appointed as a special envoy from Russia to the US. So there's that. And then at some point he was banned from entering Ukraine, which, well done. In 2017, Portia de Rasa accused Steve of sexually harassing her during an audition. He allegedly told her how important it was to have chemistry off screen before unzipping his pants, and then the interview stops. That same year, Katherine Heigl alleged that Steve had sexually harassed her at 16 on the set of Under Siege 2, and she said this on an episode of Jimmy Kimmel, who then responded, apparently he'd been told of this story beforehand or just had this hanging out, by showing a picture from the promotional tour for Under Siege 2 that showed him hugging her with his hand definitely on her breast. Now, casually, when I looked up Steven Seagal photos for the Instagram post promoting this, that was one of the ones that just popped up in like the top 10. Didn't post it because, but you know, it's very public. I don't know how he's getting away with this. Later that year, Dutch lady Fabiola Dadis alleged Steve had sexually assaulted her as well. In 2018, Rachel Grant accused him of sexually assaulting her. Later that year, Regina Simmons said that Steve raped her when she showed up for a rap party for On Deadly Ground, and then just no one else was there. Now, in Steve's defense, he denied these allegations and defended himself vociferously on the Alex Jones program.
How do all useless people end up there? Like, it's amazing. Like,
yeah.
Now, obviously, like, it's getting really hard to not hate everything about this guy. I forgot just how deep the sins go, but I do think it's very, like, the brazenness is so fucking ridiculous. Just rap parties at 7 tonight at my suite.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird. Nobody's here. I'll just get some champagne and put on my incredibly short bathrobe.
I'll just close the door behind me and get out my cock.
Yeah. That's what he said.
I'm sure other people, oh God, I'm sure other people will be here any minute. Oops, my dick came out.
Yeah. Now, on these same lines, Garrett, I know how much our audience loves statistics. So I did some cocked proportional hazard regression analysis, a few t-tests, and a single ANOVA, and then I just decided to settle for a simple ratio. Steven Seagal has, to the best of my mathematical abilities, a 0.25 credible sexual allegation to movie appearance ratio, right? That's pretty high. That means for every 4 movies he has been in, at least one person has come forward to publicly say he sexually assaulted, harassed, or frankly raped them. Allegedly, also, icebergs and whatnot. Fuck this guy.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Wait, icebergs?
Yeah, 10% above, 90% below.
Right. Yeah, no, indeed. Yeah, especially in those cases. They definitely say the majority of those cases go unreported for very obvious reasons.
Yeah. Now, again, all of this is alleged. These are just things that I read on the internet and am reporting to you. This is all publicly available information. I did not make any of it up. I am not actually even reporting it. I am simply reading from other people's sources.
Yeah, you're not saying it.
Right.
I'm not saying it. The show definitely is not saying it, nor are we standing behind it.
Oh, we
just
don't stand behind any of this.
None of this. Honestly, this is supposed to be a cooking show. I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Terrible name, though.
Yeah. In 2020, the SEC charged Steve with federal securities violations after he failed to disclose that he had received payments to promote Bitcoin to Jen. That's Bitcoin. Unclear why somebody would buy cryptocurrency because Steve told them to. I don't really understand what their problem with this was. Like, oh, he promoted Bitcoin. Like, who's buying? It doesn't matter.
Idiots.
Right.
Actually, this might be a good time, Tim, to point out in my research to get myself familiar with the man and how in the world this album came to be. There's a strong, like, all joking aside on my part, like, this is a horrible man that is completely indefensible. There's a strong contingent of people on the internet that are just diehard Seagal fans. And they're just like, this is bullshit. It's a smear campaign. He didn't do any of this. Aikido's a real thing. He'd kick your ass, blah, blah, blah. This man is a walking, talking pile of lies.
Yeah. He's
it's amazing.
He's
though.
the worst. Yeah.
But people are still out there, and I know the kids aren't saying it anymore, standing for him. You go out on Reddit, and underneath every single one of these anecdotes of Steven Seagal being a cool guy, there is 100, 200 idiots out there saying, like, he beat your ass, or you don't understand, this is all a smear campaign. Somebody's behind it, trying to get him.
And that's the thing. He might be able to beat my ass. He's a much larger man than I am. But
it won't be with Aikido.
Well, it won't be with Aikido, yeah. But, again, it's not a martial art. Like, he might eat me. That's actually concerning. Steve, don't want to fight you.
I'm going to put you inside me.
Oh, my God. Okay. So without admitting to any of the security fraud or denying any of the SEC's findings, Seagal did agree to pay $157,000 in retribution. I don't know. And then
fees and penalties.
Right. He agreed not to promote any securities, digital or otherwise, for 3 years. Now, Garrett, the most exciting story I have for you. In April 2024, Steve was on an escalator in St. Petersburg, Russia. And you know that weird robe he's constantly wearing?
Sure.
Well, you've been on an escalator. You've got shoelaces caught. Yeah. In front of his adoring Russian fans, he was slowly dragged into the medley of gears which lie beneath, pitifully begging for his life in a truly embarrassing display as he was ground to death by the sharp Final Destination-esque mechanism that lies within every escalator, shitting his pants the entire time.
In one final disgrace.
Yes. Well, no, actually, the very final, the cherry on this shit cake is that Ronda Rousey was actually in Russia at the time, and her trainer, Jean LaBelle, happened to be walking by at this very moment, and he just looked up and uttered the simple phrase, "Ha!" And
we can only hope.
Garrett, thus ends the prolific direct-to-DVD career and even more prolific sexual harassment alleged career of Mr. Steven Seagal. He will not be missed because he was, and this is not alleged, a huge, huge piece of shit who wants shit his pants. And the world is better off without him. Fuck him. Fuck this man. LaFace.
Oh, and at least 40-minute later, Shia LaBeouf. Well done. Well done, Tim. That was an excellent balance of meaty facts while still being a palatable and thrilling tale. Well done. There was a lot for you to put in there.
Thank you.
I am very impressed. In fact, to celebrate, let's go ahead and just take a look at another Steven Seagal hot take.
Number 9, Garrett.
All right, number 9.
You can say that I lived in Asia for a long time, and in Japan I became close to several CIA agents. And you could say that I became an advisor to several CIA agents in the field, and through my friends in the CIA, met many powerful people and did special works and special favors.
You could say that, but none of it would be true. Wow, number 9's a peach.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Tim, that brings us to the album itself. General thoughts. Where to begin, right? It is 14 tracks. Each one of them is like 4 minutes each.
Each one of them is bad. There is not a good song on this album.
That's fair. That is true. There is not a good song on this album. I do think it gets progressively more entertaining.
It gets progressively crazier. Like this is, I will say this is not a front-loaded album. Usually you've got like
not at all.
The first 3, maybe like songs 1, 2, 3, and 5 are singles and the rest is filler. And that might be the case here. I don't know what the singles are, but it gets progressively more nutty, at least lyrically. Well, no, you know what? Both lyrically and musically as you go on.
It just in every way.
This turns like, and that's the problem, Garrett. This should be entertaining. This should be one of those albums. This should be a face-off of music. This should be the sort of album that is so terrible that it is a Andy Kaufman-esque work of genius. And it's not. This is bad. This is to me, and I know you apparently disagree with this, and I will give you that there are moments of good music on this album. Again, like his life, I think that that's because he has hired out people that are actually good at things and is claiming that it is him. But to me, as a whole, this thing is unimaginably terrible. This is so pretentious. It's so self-serious. It's so boring. This is, to me, it is Corey Feldman level. This is Lulu. This is Kevin Federline levels of bad. I hate this, and I hope he dies horribly. Like, I don't
forgot
hope
about the pancake man.
Yeah, I don't hope he dies horribly enough to make it happen. Like, I want to be real clear about that. But when it does, not going to be sad about it. And you know what we might
throw
do?
A party.
No, I'm not really a throwing a party kind of guy.
Might attend somebody else's party.
I would attend a Steven Seagal is dead party. Yes.
Yeah, you're a very big attender, not much of a party thrower.
Yes. And for those of you that say, why would somebody celebrate, something bad happening to another individual? Doesn't that make you the bad guy?
Maybe.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Because if this guy was dead, then the future alleged crimes against humanity, against women that he will allegedly probably commit won't happen.
Yeah. At the very least, we've saved some very low dollar sex workers in Russia a very unpleasant evening.
Allegedly.
Of course, allegedly. I'm not saying that. I didn't say that. I'm just reporting it. Other people have said it.
Yes.
Let's talk about the cover, Tim. That guitar needs an adult.
It does. Basically, it's the same as that Katherine Heigl picture. That's the picture. But just replace the guitar with a 16-year-old. It's horrible.
That's crazy. Oh, I don't know who I feel worse for. Nope, still Katherine Heigl.
Yeah, definitely.
But just barely the guitar. Let's talk about, not only is he molesting a guitar, let's talk about that turquoise ring.
Yeah, he is the sort of person that would wear a lot of turquoise jewelry. And here's the thing. A lot of our listeners are currently festooned with turquoise, and that's fine. That's like, you're not a guy from East Lansing, Michigan, claiming to be Japanese who grew up in Brooklyn and then fought the Yakuza with the Irish mob.
That's true.
You live in New Mexico or possibly Arizona. It's a regional thing. I get it. You're fine. It's a little weird outside of those places, but that's fine. That's fine. This guy, it's so big. It's as big as now granted, if you've ever seen this man in person, he's got a gigantic noggin.
He's got meaty mitts. He's got little sausage fingers.
Right. Well, not little sausage fingers, friend. Those things
giant. He's got some baby baby brats on there.
I wouldn't even say baby brats. My point is...
You're just going full brat. Look at those things. Well, there's... Oh, I guess I'm looking at them now. I guess he's curling them.
They appear to have been cooked as well. They're swollen,
deep fried.
They're like kind of almost cracked. It's weird. They're gross.
Hot dog in a microwave.
Right.
We can only imagine what his penis looks like. Tim, stop imagining what his penis looks like.
Is as big as my head.
You could wear it as a necklace.
Yeah. The funny thing is,
a crown.
I was reading some reviews for this album, and I don't remember who said this. I apologize. I would give you credit. Write in, let me know. I will give you credit on a prepisode. Somebody kept referring to him as quote unquote posing with a guitar, and I thought that was very funny. It seems accurate because I believe he's the sort of person that, and again, don't know this to be true. This is conjecture. Maybe I heard it somewhere. That's not me, allegedly. I believe he plays on stage with a guitar that is not plugged in and has somebody backstage, like an actual guitar player backstage, playing his parts for him.
No way.
I don't know.
I watched him play blues guitar for a while this last couple of weeks. I think he's capable of playing basic blues relatively well. Like, not I want to buy this guy's music well, but like as well as I can work up the fucking scales. Like it's not
okay, sure.
science.
I will give you that. I believe he is as good at playing guitar as you are.
Oh, I thank you. Wait. Yeah, it's tough to say. What his musical prowess is questionable at best. Now, let me ask you a potentially controversial question. Vocals. What's your opinion?
Sings like he speaks.
I think he sings better than he speaks, or at least his speaking voice is better suited for singing. It makes more sense.
It's so his speaking voice sounds like a haggard blues man. So like I kind of get what you're saying.
Well, we're going to get into it because it does vary a bit song by song, but here's some names. Jack Johnson, Eric Clapton, Colin Hay, he's the dude from Men at Work, Sting, or at least early Police Sting.
I would say current Sting.
Yeah, that's true. Super raspy. But in all of those examples I just gave, and I'll help to kind of pin them to the songs later, I have to stress it's like those people, but plus an extra. He sounds like a broken vacuum.
Yes, okay, I agree. How do you not hate this?
It's so fucking ridiculous. What else do we need to say about this before we get into the song by song? We're already like an hour in here. Yeah. Probably not quite that, but
yeah. So again, I think part of what makes me dislike this as much as I do is that it is the insane level of pretentiousness. Like he thinks this is deep and meaningful poetry. Okay, and yeah. I mean, I do think he wrote a fair amount of this. Right?
Had to have.
Like several of these songs align themselves perfectly with that history I just read. And again, I don't know other than that how much of this is actually Steve. The album claims vocals, rhythm and lead guitar, drum, percussion, clay pot. But again, I think that those, like his martial arts, are at the bare minimum heavily assisted by others willing to make him look like less of an asshole for money. The other thing is so it's the music, right? He wants it to be blues rock. I think it is for brief moments. There's just like 90s pop, there's quote unquote world music, there's reggae. It seems to me like he listened to Paul Simon's Graceland and was like, me too.
I'm gonna do my version. It's gonna be better.
Yeah.
I agree with everything you just said. I also liken it to Chris Gaines, where you've just got a bunch of session people in there, so it's gonna be really all over the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of Stevie Wonder, what are you doing, man?
Yeah, I wasn't able to actually piece together what he did on that song, but he's allegedly there. Perhaps the harmonica. We'll get there.
I believe it is harmonica.
The wild changing between musical styles, between songs, mid-song, mid-verse is jarring. Even if all of this was palatable, just doing that is really off-putting. We've seen it in other albums, usually where it's like usually it's where it's like this. It's somebody who isn't either a very good musician or a full-time musician or is Corey Feldman, which I guess is both. You get this mishmash where it's just kind of like, what's everything that everybody got clipped out of their other albums? Let's have Steve do it.
Sure. Yeah, this sounds like he hires a bunch of session musicians who all arrive and sit there and are like, okay, what are we doing? He's like, yeah, what are we doing?
We're making music.
Yeah, you guys, let me know what you guys work out, and I'll be here whispering in the corner.
Yeah, I've got these poems I wrote. Let's turn them into songs.
Yeah.
Okay. What do I? Yeah, man. But like those aren't songs.
They never will be. Yeah.
All right, before we jump into the song by song, let's cap off our general thoughts with another Steven Seagal hot take. Mr. Steven Seagal hot take number 22104A says,
I have no fear of death. More important, I don't fear life.
He doesn't fear it, or he does fear life?
Doesn't.
Okay. Well, I assume that while being sucked into that escalator, he's going to be at least a little scared. I hope.
Boy, I love that you called it.
Yeah.
April 2024, sucked into an escalator, Final Destination style. Good luck. I'm terrified every time I get on one.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. If that happens exactly as predicted, I'm gonna have some questions.
I think a lot of people are. A lot of government agencies might. I was worried you were going to say, if all of that goes exactly as predicted, one of us is also on that escalator.
That's true. Or the other possibility, I'm some sort of god.
Let's hope not. Track number 1. Girl,
It's all right.
Once there was a king who lived in a
So this immediately sounds like a ripoff of something, right?
yes.
It
yes, it
sounds, I couldn't exactly place it. To me, it sounds like if somebody did a guitar version of the Bill Weathers Lean on Me, like a soft, shitty rock, like John Mayer, James Blount, or like Hootie cover of it. And
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't expecting soft rock bullshit to start us off.
No, not at all. It starts aggressively mediocre. You hit it nail on the head, kind of a Jack Johnson mixed with an Eric Clapton. James Blunt is definitely in the mix.
But again, the worst of any of that you've ever heard.
Yeah, with like a thick layer of on top.
I feel like that you just did some sort of Steve orgasm.
Oh God, I hope not. Oh, what if it's like super high pitched? Oh no. I doubt it. But
Is
you know,
it possible that the reason he whispers like that is because that's his actual voice is super high pitched, and the only way for him to come off with a like adult man sounding voice is to do the weird punched in the throat whisper?
I think you're 100% right. I think that his real voice is something like this, and he's like, "Oh, I don't sound like a real man.
I gotta be deeper.
You know, he's almost doing a "Where's the trigger?"
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So here's what I would like to, a challenge I would like to offer to Mr. Seagal. If you are in fact the real man that you say you are, if you are not scared of death or life, show us that voice. I want to hear your real voice.
Ooh, if anybody has audio or video proof of the real Steven Seagal voice, maybe his mom, she seems to like to light him up pretty consistently in the news. We'd love to hear it.
This is the thing, because I believe my mom would probably do the same thing. Like if I starred in a bunch of enough shitty movies to have like Steven Seagal level, like 1987, 1993, like prominence, and I was out there claiming to have been a Navy SEAL, like my mom would definitely be like, "Hey, People Magazine, you should come interview me because my son's a dirty liar."
Yeah, and I have no problem blowing his spot up. All right, Tim, let's get into these lyrics. And as we've said, it's super happy, like romantic comedy rock.
I was going to say incredibly menacing, but yeah, all right.
He says, "If I were to say that now I have everything and I want to stay no matter what tomorrow brings, would it make you feel something so real? Like even speaking your mind? Whisper your wildest dreams. Girl, it's all right by me." Now, to be clear, like, because not everybody's going to have heard this, although I completely understand why you wouldn't. Like, it's super upbeat. He's like, he literally goes,
If I were to say that now I have everything.
Yeah,
like that's literally what he's doing.
It's John Mayer doing Lean on Me, and it's ridiculous. Here's the thing, ladies. Don't tell him your deepest, darkest secrets. Do not tell him your childhood fears. He will immediately use that against you. Or possibly, if you tell him a good story, he will claim that that is his own.
I couldn't help but picture just immediately, and I think you're right there with me, him trying to convince somebody not to leave.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically a woman. Like out the gate, he says, "I want you to stay no matter what tomorrow brings." Would it make you feel so real? Like, I don't know, even speaking your mind? I read this as, listen, if I let you talk, will you stay? Because the agency did not say we had to have a conversation, but you can talk as long as you stay. But if you're going to talk, you also have to tell me your sexual fantasies.
Yes. Now, the other thing is this song continues to be him trying to be sexy and romantic, I think, but it comes off like, you'll never get rid of me. Like like, we're gonna have a love that's so intense and wonderful that like, even if I die, you'll never escape. I'll drag you to hell with me. Like, what? Sorry, that's not sexy.
Romantic. Let's keep going, because I think you're dead on. He says, because if I dream in this world, you're all that I ever need. Girl, it's all right by me. I think he might be trying to pretty woman a sex worker.
Yeah, I can see that.
Okay, let me keep going. This is the kind of thing one might see in a movie. This is the kind of thing that inspires one's greatest poetry. Out of a million chances, who would have thought I'd be this kind of lucky one? I think she is passing on the hard sell. He's like, no, stay. We can get you I could be a Richard Gere, but better because I have a ponytail. And she's like, nah, I'm good. Even, 1 in a million chances, I'm gonna go. And this is where he gets a little threatening. Girl, if I should die and have to go away, I know I'll be back to see you another day. This is either to me, should I die mysteriously, just know I will come back and haunt you, or potentially him questioning whether or not the laws of death and life apply to him.
I definitely think it's the first one, because this is not the only song where he threatens to return as some sort of Freddy Krueger monster.
I don't know. I think in both instances, it could be argued that he's not convinced he can be killed.
Oh, I believe that 100%, because this is a man, again, who has believed his own bullshit to the point that it has made him pass out and publicly shit himself. Like,
that's a risk you shouldn't take, folks.
Right, yes. If it's even on the table, and especially if you have some sort of reputation, like, for me, it wouldn't even matter, because, like, if you said that, you'd just be like, that sounds like a Tim story. But even I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't take that chance. Yeah. If you've got some sort of reputation as a tough guy, definitely just don't.
Right. There was no need.
Yeah.
Just be nice.
Right.
Let's see. Oh, keep going. What do you got?
No,
I think it ends with, so let the mountains all cry, let the sky falling down. We can't live in the past, and the future won't last. Sounds a little bit like, let's not dwell on things I might have said or done in the past. Let's just live for now, and now I'd like you to be quiet and behave like a pet or some sort of creepy furniture.
Yes. And again, it's weird, because you would think, given his opinion of himself and the public persona he tries to put out, like, this song doesn't kick ass.
No,
because Steven Seagal is not for the ladies. He is for the fellas, right? He is for
the fellas.
And this isn't going to do it for them. Like, if only we knew somebody who is a super fan. Like, I would love to have somebody that, like, loves his movies to this very day listen to this and see if maybe it pisses off Garrett's father.
Yeah, I guarantee you he would not make it through the first song.
Well, that's good.
That's good. The fuck is this?
So maybe it would ruin Steve's movies for him?
No, wouldn't even a little bit. No, he loves Under Siege.
I just don't get it.
That's fair. You weren't raised here. Track number 2, Don't You Cry.
Again, not blues rock. This sounds like he's ripping off Shitty's 90 alternative pop rock. This sounds like a Matchbox 20 or a Third Eye Blind, or, I don't know why this is.
Not Third Eye Blind, but definitely Matchbox 20.
Well, but I mean, it has that same like 1996 alt radio friendly kind of vibe to it.
Musically, that's 100% right.
This starts off and it seems to be another gross love song, but then immediately you get this, you can't, let's just read the lyrics.
Yeah, we got to get into it. This guy, you can't even preface what's about to happen because it's so hard to piece together that no one's going to believe it. So go ahead, kick us off, Tim.
And again, remember, this is an attempt to be a love song here.
Would you feel the same if I was invisible, untouchable? Would you call my name if you no longer see my face? I won't be far away. I'll be in your ocean. I'll live in your sky. I'll be here forever. Don't you cry. There's no separation between you and I. I'll be here forever. Don't you cry. I'll never die.
There's a lot to get into there. Let's go back to the top.
It sounds, just the phrasing of it, now that I'm reading it, it sounds a lot like Tears in Heaven, which makes me laugh a lot.
Yeah, I got a lot of that.
Would you feel the same if I was invisible, untouchable? I'll kill you.
I think he is threatening to either die? Or possibly a Hollow Man situation?
Maybe. I think he believes himself, and his clothing would support this quite a bit. I think he believes himself to be a Jedi. I think this is, if she strikes him down, he will become an even more powerful sexual predator than she can ever imagine.
Yes, if she kills or attempts to kill. Again, unclear if he can be harmed by conventional weapons, according to him. We all know he can be. Passed out, shit his pants. But he is threatening her from beyond the grave, or potentially, as you said, to be a Force ghost, which I'm not super clear if that's dead or alive or in between.
Oh no, I think it's very much the Obi-Wan Kenobi from that first movie. Spoilers.
Well, no, I get that. I'm just saying it's always been unclear to me, like, is a Force ghost like a dead guy? I mean, again, I know he was struck down, his physical body is dead, but like, is it the same as dead, you know?
I think he believes he will disappear when he dies. But again, it also kind of feels like, for the second song in a row, he's going to be some sort of Freddy Krueger monster that she can never be rid of, and he cannot be stopped.
Yeah, because he'll be in her ocean, he'll live in her sky, he'll be here forever.
Don't you cry. There's no separation between you and I.
Yeah. If he becomes a ghost, he can literally go wherever she is. He can turn invisible. He could be watching her at any time. The best thing to do is just let him do what it is he's going to do, and eventually he'll get married to somebody else while he stays married to you, and then legally you can divorce him, and there, you know, you can...
It's like a curse.
Yeah. You have to pass it on to somebody, some other poor lady, before you can truly be rid of the Seagal.
Yeah.
Seagal! No! Hey, I'm your husband now.
Oh, shit. Alternate reading. He thinks he can turn invisible.
I mean, again,
Can't rule it out.
given his belief that he is some sort of mystical guy, completely possible.
If I focus all my energy, do you know I can turn completely invisible?
I don't think so.
Can you see me now?
Yes.
No, you can't. You just...
No, you can't. You can see where I was. I'm projecting.
It's an astral projection. You're a goddamn liar.
Yes. Okay. He then immediately goes on to threaten to stalk her, even if he's dead, but, you know, probably in life. In every blade of grass, in every life, in everything, just look for me. If there's one thing that lasts, it's how we share this common space. We're indestructible. I love these lines because this common space, was he like touring an apartment complex and like getting their dumb spiel before writing this? I don't really understand.
I think you have to remember the context in which this song is being sung. This is an argument in their living room.
Okay, fair enough.
Right, because like,
but
we're
it's
thinking
still
about
weird
it.
phrasing.
Oh, well, this whole song is, or this whole album is weird phrasing.
Yeah, that's
it's
fair.
through the fucking Seagal filter. It's not going to be good. Let's see. Song continues.
And if you should think of me when you feel like talking, I'll be right here listening. Love is indestructible.
So yeah, I think the entire thing has just been a big argument where she threatened to kill him, and he was like,
Oh, I dare you.
And she's obviously locked herself in the bathroom at this point, and he's like,
Look, when you're ready to have a normal conversation, I'm here. I'll be ready and I'll be listening. My love is indestructible.
possibly, Tim, we might be overlooking something. This might have all been instigated by his discovery that the woman he's living with / his prisoner, alleged, might have been trying to poison him.
Ooh.
So it might very well be a,
Look, you can kill me and I'll be back. Or we can work this out. It's a shared common space. We can be adults about it and have a non-poison filled conversation. We can eat these tacos without poison, or we can eat these tacos with poison. Either way, I'm eating these tacos. I am very fat. Hungry. I can't remember which one of these had poison. Oh, well, fuck it.
Okay, here's the thing. If you've got two tacos, one of which has been poisoned and one of which hasn't, if you've got just enough poison to kill a single man, if you eat both of those tacos, it's like eating only half the poison because you've got twice the volume of food, right?
I think this comes back to your pound for pound math when you're trying to be the pound for pound best fighter in the world.
Maybe.
I think you're looking at it backwards. You might still die because your weight didn't change and the amount of poison didn't either. I don't know that the meat's doing that much heavy lifting in that taco. Is it a beef taco?
Well, yeah, I mean, one's...
You know what? I'm not going to play this game. I don't give a shit. So in the song, there's a huge guitar solo that's not quite blues. It's still teetering on that late 90s alternative sound, sort of a Matchbox level solo. And then we get the chorus, the thing about being in the ocean and the sea and stalking her and never leaving her alone. Like, literally, 5 times in a row.
Yeah.
It's 2+ minutes.
Yeah, I just would like to say at this time, or at this point, this album fucking sucks.
It's not great, but we are getting very close to where things start to really go wheels off, and that's where the fun begins. If you thought the history was fun, the song by song is about to kick its ass.
That's not true. That's not
track
true.
4. Well, maybe not. Maybe not. I might have gotten a little excited there. Nobody shits themselves in part 2. But that does bring us to track number 3, music.
If you dance with me, we can create a better place to be. Why put me feeling musically?
And that's where we're going to cut things off this week, folks. That's right. It's a 2-parter. You couldn't expect us to talk about Seagal in just one episode. Frankly, if you listen to us talk about Steven Seagal for more than 2 hours straight, you'll go insane. So, for our sake and for yours, we split it into 2 episodes. Don't worry, part 2's next week. Don't have to wait long. And trust me, it gets so much crazier. But for this week, though, that's all we've got for you. As always, write in hatePodMail@gmail.com or go to hatepod.com and click on Contact Us in the upper left-hand corner. If you want to send us any of your dark secrets, then you can put a dummy email address in there and we won't know who you are. Or you could send it to us freely, as many of you have, with absolutely no shame whatsoever. That's great too. You can reach out to us on Instagram, that's HatePod. Twitter's Album HatePod. I'm G Harvey Tweets on Twitter if you want to talk to me, and at least a dozen of you do. It's a pretty good time. Keep the art and music submissions coming. We should have some merch coming eventually. We're in the process of designing some t-shirts for reals. We've hired people. This is happening. Prepare your wallets. And I think that's probably about it. So, for Why I Hate This Album, I have been one of your hosts, Garrett Harvey. Tim is doing the dishes, so he cannot be here while I record this outro, but he'll be back next week.
There's cowboys running through my dreams. Nothing's quite the way it seems. Well, I joined the Navy. I got kicked out in a week. My facial features aren't distinct. I try to find some meaning in these songs. The genius is a genius, got it wrong. Well, it's a lobster murder sex thing, the bleaching of her hair, full of salt on both your ears. The riffs are too repetitive, the lyrics make no sense. All the songs are B-sides, the cover art's a mess. There's so much here to tear apart. Listen to it for a week, now the week has passed. It's the Why I Hate This Album podcast. Tim and Garrett.